All right, so do you guys want to just each tell us a little bit about yourselves and kind of how you got to where you are right now?
Sure.
Good starting point.
You want to go first? Sure. So I'm Alex Inman, and I was in the Bachelor of Science for the Food, Nutrition, and Health program, and then I got into dietetics after I graduated from that program, and then I did my internship with Vancouver Coastal Health, and after I finished my internship, then I got hired along with Fraser Health, mainly at Surrey Memorial Hospital. Worked there for about a year. I still work there, but about a year in, that's when Steph and I had the conversation about maybe trying the private practice thing.
Awesome. I'm Stephanie Dang, and I was also at UBC in the FNH program, and I got into dietetics after third year, and then also interned at Vancouver Coastal with Alex. And then after internship, I was hired at Children's Hospital. And then, I think we'll talk more about what happened after that.
Later on. Yeah, I was going to say we can even, if you want, go into that right now, just kind of how you guys did decide to go into business together and, just how you started that up.
So I think private practice had always been on my radar for as long as I'd wanted to be a dietitian, and like we were talking about before, having those dietitians come in and kind of speak to a class. It had always been on my radar, but not something I'd ever really thought of seriously. And then about a year into working with Fraser Health and working in clinical, I suddenly had this realization that I didn't see myself being in my 40s or in my 50s and still in the hospital. And so then I started thinking about, well, what does that mean? And that's when I started to think about private more seriously. Steph and I did our internship together. We were in the same research group. We were close friends before the internship time as well. And she was also kind of having those same thoughts. And so I thought, what better way? We already know that we work really well together. What better way than to split the work with someone that I know and that I trust and get this started?
Yeah, it was actually closer than a year because we finished internship in June, and then we kind of started things November of that year. So I guess that was actually like 6 months.
There you go. Never mind, it wasn't a year.
But yeah, I think the reason why we started it together was because it was kind of like the blind leading the blind. Like we had literally no idea how to start a business. Like I'm pretty sure we Googled how to start a business and like just kind of went from there, and we had to do a lot of research, and it took several months before we got it up and running, but it's been going really well now, so it's good.
I like how you guys said, though, it sounds like it was nice to work with somebody, even though you both weren't sure what you were doing. It was helpful to have that other person to kind of bounce ideas.
I honestly don't think I would have been able to do it by myself. But, because I mean, it took, I think one of the first things we did was obviously research other private practices out there. And like making a website was a huge learning curve on its own. For anybody out there making a website, do not hire someone to do it for you. Use like Wix or WordPress. It's so easy and you can do it. We made that mistake. That was our only like major mistake, I think, that we made.
And it wasn't even really that big. It felt big, but it wasn't really that big. But what's nice about choosing a partner is that what I found is anytime where I would kind of fall off the bandwagon and, kind of be like, oh, this is a lot of work, I don't know if I want to do it, Steph would kind of like take charge, and then if I felt that from her, then I would kind of take charge. And so between the two of us, we really motivated each other to get it done. But I would suggest that if you are considering going into business with someone, make sure you've worked with them before, make sure you have a similar idea, goal, way of doing things. Like Steph and I, as I said, we had worked on many group projects before, so we already knew that we had that good working relationship. So I would really encourage people, if they're thinking about that, really think about who you would do it with and who would work well with you.
And I think also keep in mind that like at the beginning, you're not doing it for the money. Like you're just doing it to get established, and like we've split everything really evenly, and it's been no problem there. And I think money can kind of be like a tricky subject with some business partners, but just keeping an open mind, like doing it in order to help build your private practice instead of like make more money at the beginning. Like definitely have some sort of income while you're starting up.
Well, that's good to know. I wouldn't have even thought to ask that. That's awesome. So actually just going back to I guess we touched on this a bit, but just kind of in terms of like startup costs and stuff like that, like, do you guys have some sort of insurance doing private practice?
Yeah, so you need
renting spaces, and what what did that look like for you guys, and how did you figure that out?
You need.
How did we figure that out?
Like, we called the college a couple times.
Okay.
So you of course need insurance. So even if you're working at the hospital, the insurance that you have there is just under the hospital. So if you're doing anything privately, you need to get your own insurance. I think it's like $250 a year or $200 a year.
I think it's, about
something like that. And then as for renting space, we actually started off not having an office. And then when did we get that started? Maybe like the summer. I think like 6 months after we had our website up, we
it was like this late spring, early summer. It was through Jerry's List. I don't know if you guys know. Jerry's List. So a clinic sent out an email through the list looking for a dietitian. And I was sort of like, well, instead of having a dietitian under your staff, how about like bringing on us? And it just kind of worked out with them really well.
Awesome.
In
terms of like startup costs, there's not really a whole lot.
No, it's not. Your insurance, your website costs, our hired website, which was like, you don't need to do. And
like just anything to do with the website, like the domain name and having it live. There's not really a whole lot. And then once, like, if you do decide to go in with a clinic, then it depends on your agreement with that clinic. We worked out a percentage, so we don't pay a flat rate. So if we make money, then they make money. If we don't make money, then they don't make money. So there's no loss, which is really nice.
I didn't know that was an option, so that's
Yeah.
I guess it depends who you work with, and like you said, you just have to work with them.
And like different clinics will kind of have like a set rental fee, so maybe like $25 per hour or something, and you just need to book it before. But we just did a percentage, and it's easier. We find.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. What did I have next? Okay. What about a little bit more about promoting yourselves? Like, you've talked about your blog a little bit and your Instagram, kind of how you've gained followers, like in Instagram, in your blog, how you do giveaways, sponsorships, like that kind of thing. How does that? Do you approach businesses? How does that work?
I've put in a lot of hours into Instagram.
You mentioned.
And at first it was kind of just like something that we could just have on the side, and then it kind of started to get bigger, and it really depends on how much time you put into it, right? So if you want something to do well, like, you just got to put the hours in. So as for promotions and things like that, it started off with businesses reaching out to us over like email or Instagram messages, and then kind of once we hit like the 10,000 follower range, I reached out to some people as well, and it's been good to have on the side, but definitely finding clients, it's better to also have other ways of doing that, like internet ads or doing your SEO on your website, because Instagram followers, they don't always equal clients, but it's nice to have to help like give your business some credibility almost. But
I think the way that we view it is that if a potential client finds us online, however they find us, probably having these accounts makes us seem like more legit or what so, but rather than that being a driving force for clients towards us, it's not really been that way. In terms of the blogging, the blog posts, that started off, well, we knew that we had to keep a blog, but then I started realizing that it was a really good way to learn. So basically any blog post that I've written, and probably stuff is the same, has been a question that I've had, something that I've come across that I'm like, okay, I need to sort this out in my practice, and then doing the research for that blog, it's actually, that's my main goal with it, is teaching myself about that topic.
That's a good way to look at that.
Yeah. But I think most of the clients are just coming from, well, not just coming, but mainly coming from online searching. Like they're searching and finding us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then back to either the blog or Instagram, in terms of like taking photos of food and stuff, did you have to invest a lot of equipment or like camera equipment, and does that take up a lot of time?
I use my iPhone 5 for the photos.
Wow, nice, awesome.
Yeah, and just like editing, like ViscoCam or whatever it's called.
Okay, so you didn't have to invest a lot of it. It's
No, yeah, Alex got like one of those marble like wallpapers, and I literally put it on like a Purolator box, so it's not even like a legit thing. Yeah, so it doesn't, you don't need to invest a ton of money into doing that kind of thing if you don't want to. I'm sure it would be great to have like a legit camera and a legit marble countertop, but
it works.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You guys have answered some of these. Yeah, actually, so what would you say is your primary source of income? Is that like the other jobs that you work in, or do you get, or even just in terms of your business, do you get that more from doing sponsorships and stuff like that, or clients coming in to see you? Like, what do you find kind of you get more?
So the sponsorships on Instagram aren't paid. It's more of just like to get engagement on Instagram. But I don't know. I mean, I have a temporary position at Children's, but I think private practice, as well as like the other like small things that I'm doing, is kind of like equal to my children's job. I don't know, actually. I haven't actually broken it down.
I definitely, like, my main source of income would be through Fraser Health, through the clinical position. But what I've noticed even just this year is like the growth of the private practice has been exponential. Like if I think back to where we were a year ago, it's incredible, the growth. So it wouldn't surprise me if in the next few years it would take off to the point where we could work part-time, or even just primarily get our income from private practice.
Oh, so it's not, I know you guys touched on that earlier. It's something where not in the beginning to expect you're going to make all this money, but it's something that it could happen over time if you put the time and effort into it.
And like you can like definitely explore. There's so many more. I was actually thinking that I was going to be working clinical for the rest of my life, like full-time clinical, and then like Alex, going into it, I like it and it's awesome, but doing stuff on the side, like I'm working at the Oval as well as a sports dietitian, which has been a lot of fun, and like with another athletic conditioning company too as a sports dietitian, and even just like I recently partnered with Cobb's Bread to be like their nutrition consultant. So there's so many different avenues that you guys can take that definitely keep your mind open, and this is not where I thought we would be.
On that note, actually, how did you guys like find these different avenues? Is it more just like looking stuff up online and talking to people? And
I think Jerry's List was the Cobb's Bread thing. The Oval, I don't remember. I think I reached out to them, and then the lady just happened to be going on a mat leave, and then I took over. Just not being afraid to reach out and ask people and
put yourself out there
and apply for positions even if you don't think you're qualified. Just throw your name in the hat, because I think you'd be surprised what you would get.
Never know what happens. That's encouraging to know. Actually,
definitely.
We've touched on this a little bit too, but what does collaboration look like for you guys in terms of like you've mentioned that you focus a little more on the Instagram, but how does it work with doing blog posts? Like you do those independently?
Do you mean collaboration between us too, or?
Yeah, sorry. I mean like with everything. I mean like in terms of writing posts, who does what in the practice? What are your roles?
So Alex does the other social media like Facebook and Twitter, and then I've done the Instagram mostly, but like we can share if one of us needs help. And then the blogs, usually one of us will think of a topic and then start writing it, and then the other person will like collaborate on it, and it's just like a open Google Doc, and once we think it's ready to post, then we do.
I think you just need to play to each other's strengths. Steph's really good at Instagram. I'm not so good at Instagram, so I like doing the blogging, doing the writing more so. So I think playing to those strengths, that's another reason why I really like going into this as a partnership, is that you are going to have different areas where you're more interested, or you're better at this but not as good at that, so you can play off that and work together. But yeah, in terms of collaboration that way, but it's mainly an equal effort, I would find.
Trying. So even like in terms of the email, does one of you guys run the email, and even like with scheduling clients and whatnot, how do you go about that, like working with each other's schedules even?
So generally like we try our best to switch, like Alex got a new client, the next new client will be mine, and then switch that way. But another good thing about having two of us is that, let's say like I was on vacation, and Alex would be able to just take over any business that was there then. And I mean, we both have access to the email, so we both check it regularly and just kind of respond. And
Or constantly texting and calling.
Yeah.
Like, hey, did you see that email about this thing or that thing? Like, when you guys emailed, we had to immediately text each other basically as soon as we saw it.
Yeah. Figured it out together.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. That's awesome. That's good. It sounds like you guys have good communication, which seems huge.
Yeah, honestly, it hasn't been like, it's been so easy, which has been nice. But I think Alex made a good point, just making sure that you have worked with the person if you are going to collaborate together, like multiple group projects. You guys are decent friends, at least, if not good friends. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes sense. Yeah, I guess this can even speak to some of your clinical work, but what would a typical session look like for you guys if you were, actually maybe you can all rephrase that. I know you guys have on your blog, you have different types of packages that people can purchase, whether it's like grocery store tours or different types of session packages that people can purchase. So how does that look like? How would a typical session run, or how do you determine how much you're emailing that client back and forth? I noticed you guys have email on there. Just kind of where do you draw the boundaries, and what does that look like? It's a big question.
Yeah. So this is a learning curve for us over the past year. We started off offering like a consult with a fee and then a follow-up session with a fee, and then we were finding people were coming in for their consult, and trying to get them to come back was really difficult. And I don't think it's that they didn't see the value, but just trying to keep that client interested, trying to get them back with their scheduling, that kind of thing. And then we realized packages were the way to go. If you get people in up front, they know that they have this goal, and if they've paid for everything up front, then they're going to stick to it. So that's where we got that from. We did a lot of research into people's health insurance and what the typical amounts are. So all those packages actually fit into typical amounts for what people can get covered. And that's a big selling feature, is that if you can tell someone, hey, you can see me and you don't have to pay for it, someone else is going to pay for it. I think that's a really big way to draw them in.
Yeah, that's huge. That makes sense.
And I think for us, what we learned really quickly, and I think we're still kind of learning, is valuing your own time. We get reached out to come and do a free talk at a sports store, or come and do this presentation. And I think it's really great if you want to volunteer, but at the end of the day, this is our profession, this is our career. We've done a lot of schooling, we're our experts in our field, and so your time is very valuable, and there's nothing wrong with saying, I'm not going to drive out to Burnaby for a 10-minute workshop for free. Like, that's just not going to happen.
That was like an actual...
They reached out to us. Yeah.
For 10 minutes.
Yeah. So even if you're just starting out, you're brand new, like, I think if you can value yourself, then other people will see the value in you, is what I'm trying to say.
And we've done a lot of free workshops, a lot of free talks and things like that. And once we kind of realized, hey, we're not actually getting any extra business from these things, because I'm not sure why, but I think once we started definitely setting boundaries in the way, like, okay, sounds great, this is what we charge, and not being scared to do that. I was just gonna ask that.
Do sometimes when you like email some of these people back or contact them back and say, this is our rate kind of idea, do they sometimes counter back and say, okay, we're willing to do that? Do you kind of get a bit of both, or is it
in terms of clients or like workshops?
Or sorry, I mean, like you were talking about doing free workshop, or people asking you to do free workshops. Do you counter back with this is how much we charge, that kind of idea, and do people come back to you and say, like, yes, we're willing to, or sometimes
it's mostly unsuccessful. If they're reaching out for a free talk, generally, if they come out and say initially, like, for free or volunteer, then generally they aren't able to find the funding for that. But it's worth a shot out there.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that there's a lot of professions out there which are starting to almost infringe on the dietetics profession. And I think us as a profession, we're maybe not doing the best job of defending ourselves. And I mean that in being more present online, being more, hey, we are the experts for nutrition and we are the ones who, you know, you should be bringing into schools, or you should be bringing in for different things, and we should be the ones that you go to. If you look at any workshop done by any other nutrition expert, quote unquote, they're charging a lot of money and people are paying for it. So I don't think that us as dietitians, we should shy away from that, because I think we're just as qualified, definitely probably more qualified to do that.
No, yeah, you make a good point. If people are paying for this anyways, why aren't they paying us, essentially, right? Okay, no, that's awesome.
And I think that's where I really like how well the Instagram's been going and stuff like that. I really think that dietitians should be more present and more. It shocks me that people don't know that dietitians exist in the first place, or the scope of what we do. And so I think the more people that can sort of be out there and be present and be known is fantastic for our profession.
Because it's a big stereotype that dietitians just live by the food guide and that's all that we do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you hear that even more in practice. Like, I know we hear that a bit in our classes, but
yeah. And so kind of like Alex was saying, I think it's really important for us to have an online presence and to let people know, like, we do so much more than that. And yeah.
Actually, just even going back now and thinking about it with the blog posts and whatnot, because some dietitians do have an online presence and do that type of thing. Did you guys find that was something that was very new to you? Did you have much experience with that before, or did you
Alex did,
like write an online kind of idea?
So my dream career when I was in high school was that I was going to be a journalist. So that's just always been something that's been of interest to me. I've always enjoyed writing. There was a heavy blogging in the dietetics program, I remember. And then for internship, I kept a blog all the way through about my experiences as an intern. So it's something that just kind of came naturally to me and that I enjoy doing. That's the most important part.
That's good to know. How about for yourself? Was it something you had done a lot with before, or were you
it was like I'd done writing before, but kind of to the extent of school writing. And also the blogging in the dietetics program. But and I think a big learning curve for me is that I'm so used to writing kind of like scientific papers, like writing more for an audience and more for people to read and enjoy. So we definitely pride ourselves in doing everything evidence-based and getting our research and the facts right, but definitely working on
presenting it in a way that's easy to read, and that people
want to read.
I think there's a very large group of people that don't want to read about the science and they don't want to read about the research. They want the quick fix and just tell me what to do.
Or give me a pill. Too.
Yeah.
So I guess with your writing, it sounds like finding that balance between making it consumer friendly, but also making sure you have the research in there too. Oh, that's awesome. What about, have we touched on going back to doing more of like your one-on-one sessions with clients and whatnot, things like privacy and keeping documentation, kind of how you go about that. How do you ensure that?
So we were so worried about that when we first started. We called the college a lot of times. And what the college basically ended up saying was, as long as you are upfront with your client about where you're going to store their information or how you're going to use it, and you get their consent, you can basically do whatever you want. Whether it's paper charting and keeping it in a filing cabinet, or whether it's online, as long as you're being upfront with people and they agree to it, then it's totally fine.
So we have a full-on privacy agreement that they read, and like a privacy form that they can sign, as well as like medical consent form. And as long as you're being professional about how you're storing the documents, and if it's online, maybe doing like a password protected like folder for all your patient files and things like that, it's really okay. Because I think when we first started into it, we thought we needed like a locked filing cabinet and everything had to be super secure, which it still does, but as long as, like Alex said, you're upfront with the patient, you're getting all the consent forms signed, and you're being professional with how you're handling the patient information, then
The nice thing about the clinics that we're with is that they have their own charting and booking system, really so nice. We just use theirs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
It's an online charting system, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Perfect. Yeah.
I didn't realize, you're making it sound a lot easier than I thought it was, so that's reassuring.
Yeah.
On that note too then, actually, what about cancellations? Do you guys have a cancellation policy, or have you dealt with that a lot? What does that look like?
I think I'm the only one
haven't.
that said it. Yeah.
We have a policy, but I haven't had to deal with it yet. Alex did once, and I think that was another learning curve.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So luckily, when people want to come for a consult, they don't cancel. So we haven't faced that yet. The one cancellation that I had was for a follow-up. I don't know what ended up happening, but for some reason he just couldn't get to the appointment and he didn't give enough notice. So we've put on our forms that you need to give at least 24 hours notice, and then that's not a problem and we can reschedule for you. But for him, it was literally 10 minutes before. So luckily we did have a cancellation policy on our form, and he was happy to pay it and happy to reschedule, because I think he felt bad and knew that it was all on him. But I think having that cancellation policy is really important. That's the other thing that I really like about the packages. If they buy a package of 5 and they miss one, that's fine. Now you just get 4.
Yeah.
Right? You already have that money, so you don't need to face that kind of awkwardness.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess with packages, it's okay. I was going to ask if you do like keep people's credit cards on file, or is it more just a conversation you have? But I guess if you pay for the packages up front, then that kind of takes it.
And it's all through the clinic, so they handle all the payments and everything. So, yeah, we don't.
I have heard of people using the same booking system that we use, and to book your first appointment you would need to put your credit card on file, and then they would charge your credit card. So I think it depends on whatever works for you, and it would be a learning curve, but it's only happened once for us.
And I think it's similar to other professions. Like if you go to the dentist and you make a cancellation in less than 24 hours, they charge you. So same with like physio and a lot of other like medical professions. So definitely having the cancellation policy, because your time is very valuable.
Definitely.
So.
And if you're with a clinic and you're paying a flat rate, then you've missed out on that rate, right? If they cancel. So
I really like that you guys have emphasized that like our time is valuable, because we've spent so much time going to school, learning this profession.
Yeah, and don't feel bad. This is completely fair. This is what everybody else is doing in the field, in the health field. So it's not something that clients are shocked by.
Right.
Yeah, this is
You're right. Like you said, same
done.
as dentists, same as anything else. So it's not abnormal.
Yeah.
Awesome. Another thing I was just curious about was I noticed, I think I started following you guys maybe in the fall or summer, but you guys had a name switch. Do you want to talk about that? And, like how that came about? So what was your name originally? It was
A&S Nutrition Consulting, and we just honestly had no idea. Neither of us come from like creative backgrounds, clearly, like A&S. And then once we stared going, and we wanted something like unique to us, and
I don't know, it was a cool name. We just came up with it.
Yeah,
it was like with it. We didn't really think about it, I don't think.
And then once we started realizing the main people that were finding us were through Google, and people going through Google are going to Google dietitians in Vancouver or Vancouver dietitians. And then one day I just looked at Instagram and I was like, hey, Vancouver dietitians is available on Instagram. Should we do a name change?
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like a no-brainer, like, oh, why didn't we think of this before? Because it makes so much more sense to, so that's why.
No, that makes sense. It sounds like you were catering more to your audience that way, and something that you wouldn't necessarily realize just starting out, but
you're like trying to come up with something cool and interesting. Just keep it simple.
That's reassuring too, because I know for myself I'm not the most creative, so it's kind of nice to know that just like if you go back to the basics, something simple works, because you make a good point. People are just going to Google Vancouver dietitians, and then you guys will pop
simple name, simple logo, simple website, just nothing crazy needs to happen.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'm just trying to see. I think you guys answered most of our questions, but I was going to ask if there's anything you guys wanted to add, or just if you had any recommendations for us in general about going into private practice, and anything I've missed.
Just do it.
Do it?
Just do it.
You're never going to feel ready, or you're going to think, I have to do all these things before I can launch. Just launch it. And you're going to learn so much, and we're still learning so much, and you're going to change things around, and that's totally okay, but you have to get started somewhere.
Because I'm going to be honest, I didn't get my first client until June, and we started in like November, December, so But then, like Alex said, as soon as we got going, it's just like grown exponentially, and I'm hoping it'll continue to grow. By next year, we'll be like maybe even doing this full time. Like, who knows? But yeah.
And Steph's saying like our first clients were in June, as if that's that's 6 months, basically.
Yeah,
like it feels like forever, and I think Steph and I put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and we're very much like the overachiever type of personality. But yeah, the growth has been huge in such a short amount of time. I think there's a market for it. I know that there's a market for it in Vancouver. I think most people are going to RHNs. They're going to their naturopath for this information. And I want to see dietitians starting to come out. I think Vancouver is a great city to do it in. I think there's room for all of us to succeed here. And I would kill to see dietitians just like killing it at social media, killing it at private practice, and just kind of changing people's perceptions of what a dietitian means.
Yeah, because I run into it a lot. Like, there's just like a negative connotation with dietitians for some reason, and like people will pay $200 to go see a nutritionist or naturopath,
and they'll pay another $300 in the supplements that they need,
and all the pills that they're selling. And we've learned that people love the quick fix, and they want that sometimes, which is unfortunate. But I think we need to promote our profession a little bit more, I think, in the private practice area. So I think it's awesome that you guys are all interested in doing that.
Yeah, we didn't even realize when we started going with this project, like, how many questions we really had, and I think it just sparked more interest and more just wanting to know about this field.
Yeah.
And we still have questions. We don't have it figured out by any means.
Yeah,
we're
like,
still learning.
we graduated, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, not even, so.
But I think the reason we were really drawn to you guys, too, sorry, Joe, was, just because, like, you guys have only been graduated for a few years. We thought, like, we could talk to somebody who's, like, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, doing this, but they've been doing this for so long. We were kind of worried maybe they've lost sight of, like, how they even got there and kind of like the beginning stages. So that's why we were really interested in you guys, is just because you have already gotten, like, a fair amount of success, and it's just been such a short amount of time. So we thought that was really awesome.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you asked us again next year, our answers would be totally different.
Yeah,
we probably would have learned so much more, but just do it. Just start. That's my recommendation.
I feel inspired.
Yeah, even if you don't have a partner to do it with, like, it's fully possible to do it on your own if you've got that. If you want to do it,
if you have the drive to get it done, definitely.
That's awesome. Do you guys have, like, any questions? Anything I missed, or?
I don't think so. No,
That's great.
You covered a lot. I'm just enjoying.
Yeah, I think that's everything then. That was awesome. Cool. You guys taught us so much. I feel so good.
No, that's good. Like, literally, we went into it knowing nothing. Like, I would have loved to have this video for someone.
That is so reassuring, because I feel like I know.
It feels so much better.
It does too. Yeah, and you learn by doing, and I like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Doing and asking and talking to others and asking a billion questions to other people, and not just dietitians. Like, reach out to people that you know who are in business, who are in marketing, who are doing this. That's what we've done.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Our pleasure.